Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my stepdad in front of his family saying he's in my house? For the past few months I, 17 male, haven't had a good relationship with my mom or stepdad. I'm angry at them because 2 years ago when my dad passed away he left me inheritance that I'm supposed to get on my 18th birthday. I'm also getting survivor's benefits that my mom uses for me when I need things, so it's not like she used this inheritance for me. They bought a house that we moved into. It was weird for me because we always lived in a 3-bedroom apartment. My stepdad is a substitute teacher and my mom's a part-time reception. They never even had enough to go for a vacation or something, but all of a sudden they had for a large house out of nowhere. MG mom looked guilty about it until she finally admitted they used some of what my dad left me to buy the house. I lost my shit. They tried to justify that it was for me too, and I asked them, does that mean they're moving out when I'm 18 and the house is gone be in my name? And they're like, no. That's what I thought. Supposedly the house was for my but max time I would have lived there was a few months. There's still some money left if I went to a cheap college, but still can't believe they used my money for something on themselves. That amount could have helped me get my own dom house. Also think is funny since my stepdad didn't like my dad because since I was spending more time with him that meant my mom had to pay a little in child support. But he doesn't care using the money he left for me. Sorry if this a bit of a rant, but where I'm asking it I was in a hole was last Saturday his family all came to stay at the house. They stayed Friday night, so it was NXT morning when I'm getting ready to go to work. I made myself eggs in a hurry before I left. My stepdad asked how come there wasn't more for his family. And told him it's because I'm already leaving for work, there wasn't gonna be time to make something for everyone. He acted like it's not a big deal if I'm a little late since it's rare they have people over at the house. We got back and forth because I'm not going to stop to make breakfast when he can do it himself. Then he pulled that don't talk to me like that in my house. BTW there's no door in the kitchen and that leads right to the living room so they could hear all this. I said loudly, actually it's my house since you paid for it with my money and don't forget they stole from me. My mom is expecting me to apologize for embarrassing him in front of his whole family because after I left they all had shit to say about it. They already went home by the time I got home, but you could feel the tension. He straight up ignored me, that's how bad it was. I don't feel like there's anything for me to apologize for, so that's where she thinks I'm not being a good son and kind of an a-hole. Wanna know if others feel the same? Not the a-hole. I think you should talk to an estate lawyer because if your dad structured his will properly, I would say your mother has misused funds put in trust for you for her own personal benefit. Don't pick a huge fight with your mom and stepdad over this until you have the facts. But I really do think you should have a professional review the situation and let you know what your options are. Not a lawyer here, so don't listen to my advice, but you should light the house on fire. You're the a-hole. Sounds like a toddler tantrum. The money isn't gone, it's equity in a house you're living in, and when you need it they can remortgage. Tough time for all of you. Grow TF up. Am I the a-hole for consistently filing noise complaints and calling the municipality because I neighbor won't turn off his high-frequency anti-animal/kids sound emitter thingy? Hi there, I am not sure if it is relevant, but I am 18 female. So recently a neighbor of ours, my parents, myself and my brother, installed this sound emitter meant to keep young people/kids and animals out of their yard. Now usually I wouldn't be too bothered about stuff like that. I mean, I think it is kind of an absurd thing to buy without informing your neighbors, but whatever. The issue is, I also hear this sound and it is loud enough for me to actively avoid sitting in the yard or opening the windows because I can also hear it inside with the windows open. It has gotten to the point where I noticed I pretty much have a constant headache and can't focus on anything, and it only started when this sound started. Now since I am the only one in my family who is home often, I work evenings and nights and am in college, which mostly involves studying and following an occasional online class right now, I end up having to either sit inside with the windows closed or be confronted with that obnoxious sound. My brother is rarely home, but he hears it too when he is here, and my parents both don't hear it, in case you wanted to know. I ended up more or less pinpointing down where it came from and ended up knocking on 3 doors. They both claimed it wasn't theirs and the third had no one at home. I tried again a while later, same result, and on the third try a guy finally opened the door. So I explained my problem. He confirmed it was his and I asked him to turn it off or at least turn the volume of that machine down so I won't hear it in our yard. He said no to the first and said it doesn't have a volume button on the second question. He then went on a tirade complaining about cats pooping in his yard and kids using the stone posts in his front yard as a hangout spot, and more or less ended up telling me there is nothing he could do and for me to deal with it. I checked if these things were legal, turns out they were, but I also read that if there are enough complaints they may be forced to take it down. So, well, that's what I have been doing. It has been a couple of weeks and a dozen complaints later, and I also heard from a few neighbors in their early 20s. They also filed complaints as they could hear it too, and it turns out the house he lives in is a rental and the owner is trying to evict him due to the large amount of complaints. Given there are basically no houses to rent in my area, I do feel really shitty about it / feel a bit Koreanish and figured I'd ask what you guys think. Not the a-hole. The reason your brother and you can hear it but not your parents, also the reason it works to dissuade kids from being there, is because as you get older the highest frequency sound you can hear reduces. The whole point is for it to be unpleasant to people who can hear it. Not the a-hole. Honestly, that should be considered assault. He is knowingly causing you physical pain. You spoke to him in a reasonable manner and took the only course left to you. Am I the a-hole for asking my stepdaughter to wake 20 minutes early so she can make breakfast? My husband and I just had our last kid a month ago. He has 2 from a previous marriage, Paul 23 male, and my stepdaughter Maddie, 16 female, she lives with us full time. We also had 4 kids ourselves, Jason 7 male, Mia, 5 female, Louis, 3 male, and our baby boy Joshua. My stepdaughter isn't really that involved with me, but she's really close to her younger siblings. I've never asked something like this before. During my previous pregnancies my husband was there to help me out since he had a more flexible schedule, but now he has a new job that requires him to be there all 6 a.m. minimum. When our kids mostly wakes at 7:30, lately I've been really tired since Joshua is a big crier and I decided to take the long nights since my husband needs to sleep well or he might have an accident at his job. This has caused me to have big migraines because I sleep very little and I wake up to screaming children running around. My stepdaughter is very chill. I take almost no care of her since she's pretty self-sufficient. During mornings she prefers not to eat breakfast since most times it makes her feel dizzy throughout the day, so while she wakes up with the kids, she just stays in her room getting ready. Today I pulled her aside and asked her if she could wake up 20 minutes early so she could help me making breakfast for the kids and I'll wake up by 8 to take them all to school. This would give me 1 more hour to sleep and feel ready for the day. She said no because her siblings are pretty energetic and she doesn't feel she can't take care of them or get Louis to eat all of his food, and it also means that she has to make sure Jason and Mia are ready for school, dress them and make sure everything is in their bags so I can just grab them and take them. I tried to explain how I've been feeling really bad because I'm not sleeping well and she just shrugged and said I said no, I'm not their mom, ask dad to help you or get a babysitter. I also stay up until late doing homework but I'm not asking you to make me breakfast every day or drive me to school, and she left. I texted my husband what happened and I mentioned how I would like if we could convince her, but he said I was an a-hole and that Maddie was right. We spoke on the phone and he sounded pretty mad. He said I better not ask her again and that he'll take the rest of the nights with Joshua before I should have asked him before. I'm confused. I only asked her to help and wake up 20 minutes early. She lives with us after all, so I don't know why is that a big deal. You're the a-hole. Your stepdaughter was 100% correct. You are the parent. She is not. She isn't just making breakfast, you're asking her to do the full morning routine for all of her siblings. Totally not okay. Did you consider maybe a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours situation? Like if she starts doing stuff to help you out around the house, then you will give her something she's been wanting. Like money toward a car, or something. I don't think you're the a-hole for asking. Some kids like to do stuff like that. Others don't. Same as adults, probably. No a-holes here so far. You can ask, she can say no, and her dad can support her. It's what happens next that could put you into a whole territory. Maddie is right, she is not the mom, and she has her own responsibilities that she needs to take care of. It also sounds like she was pretty respectful when she declined, so to pursue this further would be not nice. It sucks to have so much on your plate, but you and your husband made the choice to have that many more kids. It's your responsibility, both of you, to take care of them. Am I the a-hole for taking the only 2-seat table in the restaurant all to myself? Throwaway account. I, 35 female, have given up on dating but still enjoy date activities, so once a month I take myself out on a date. I go out to the movies, museums and even mini golf by myself. And I always treat myself to a nice lunch/dinner around 3 to 4 p.m, after the lunch rush but before the dinner rush too, so I have plenty of time to enjoy my food. For my self dates I always look for a new restaurant to try. Saturday I found this great little Mediterranean place. It's a real gem, hidden away at the end of a strip mall, with murals on the walls, lovely guitar music, and only about 7 tables total. When I got there only one other table was occupied and I sat in the only 2-seater table. The waiter got me my drink and I had just put in my order when a couple walked in. They looked around the small restaurant, saw me at the only 2-seat table and approached the waiter. I was on my Kindle and not paying attention until I heard the waiter say there are plenty of other tables. They argued for another minute before I heard the man say she won't take that long to eat. She's all alone. The woman huffed and they sat at the 4-seat table right next to me. They ordered waters and loudly said they were still deciding what they wanted but were clearly stalling because she looked right at me as she said it. I chose to ignore it. When I treat myself to self-dates I go all out and order an appetizer, soup/salad, and entree. My appetizer came out and I clearly heard the man say, "See, it's just a small meal, she'll be gone soon." I didn't say anything and just enjoyed my food. When I finished the woman grabbed her purse like she was going to dash to my table before someone else came in, only for the waiter to bring out my soup. I took my time eating the soup as the waiter again asked the couple if they're ready to order. The woman said they're still deciding and needed water refills. Then my entree came out. As soon as they saw it, the woman said, "Are you effing kidding me?" The food was amazing, and even though I knew they were waiting for my table, I took my time appreciating my meal. Halfway through, the waiter again asked them if they were ready. The man said he was starving and ordered. The woman was clearly not happy but also ordered. I was tempted to order dessert too, but I was stuffed. I paid my check, and as I was leaving I saw the couple moving their plates over to my table, which hadn't even been cleared off yet. At the time I thought it was hilarious, but when I told my friends about it, they said I had been an a-hole. They said restaurants like that were for couples on dates, not single people, and that it wouldn't have been a big deal for me to move or gotten takeaway and eaten at home. I said it was 4 p.m. not prime date time, and that there were 5 other tables to pick from, but they said I'd taken the most romantic table and ruined their date for my own enjoyment. Now I'm not sure, and I'm asking the internet for an impartial judgment. Not the a-hole. You took the smallest table available, which happened to be a 2-seat table. What would anyone expect you to do, except exactly that? Frick that nonsense. Unpopular, but you're the a-hole. They're obviously not entitled to the smaller table, but it sounds like you were purposefully drawing this out just to piss them off. You could have easily moved to one of the empty tables before your food even arrived. Your self-dates don't need to include raining on someone else's date. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my aunt when she pressed about me getting married? Backstory first, my female 21, aunt female 48, is very traditional, and thinks all women should have kids and get married and be housewives. I cannot conform to her standard, because I am a lesbian and am already in a relationship, and doesn't know this. My aunt keeps pestering me about it now that I'm 20, and I keep brushing it off. Anyways, on with the story. So my aunt and I recently went to a family gathering. It went on for a couple hours, and then we all sat down on a table to have lunch. My aunt was sitting almost directly opposite me, and there were 15 other people there. In the middle of the meal, everybody got quieter to eat. My aunt saw this as the perfect opportunity to ask me, "Hey, Op, do you want to get married nowadays?" At this moment, my brain thought of something, and I quickly responded to her, in the most loudest, disgusted way possible. Ew, no. At this point, everybody was silent. My aunt got slightly offended with me and asked, "Why? This is where I might be the a-hole." I quickly responded to her with, "Because you're my aunt." It didn't really get the reaction I expected. Only 2 people really laughed, but my cousins piped in to say how my aunt was always pestering us about getting married, which I guess is a small win. Later, after the gathering, my aunt sent many angry WhatsApp texts to me, saying how she was just asking a plain question, and that I had no right to humiliate her like I did. Am I the a-hole? Ha! Not the a-hole for that silly joke that for some reason I didn't see coming. You're the a-hole, handled this poorly. Your response showed a lack of maturity. Can't expect people to read your mind. If you don't want to discuss your marital status with your aunt, let her know. Have a grown woman conversation. Time to grow and learn how to discuss young adult topics. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that when she's dead, it won't be a big deal? It's been a really tough year for us. Early this year I took a trip to visit my sick mother on her deathbed right before she passed away, which was the most difficult experience of my life. After returning home, my father-in-law started getting sick and falling down a lot, and he's been refusing to use his wheelchair. His most recent fall has landed him in the hospital with a fractured neck and a softball-sized knot on his head. He's been in the hospital now for 2 weeks and he only seems to be getting sicker. My mother-in-law has been taking care of him, and she has been understandably overwhelmed and stressed, especially going back and forth between home and hospital. On one hand, I empathize with her because she is in an awful position and doesn't have much control over her life anymore. On the other hand, she's always been kind of a bitch, and she doesn't make it easy to be there for her. I've always gotten along with my in-laws, but it's not without effort. They are both very opinionated and argumentative people, and they dominate any conversation. I used to make an effort to spend time with my mother-in-law, but it's like the moment she would see me, she'd dump everything on me and I end up sitting there listening to her rant every day. I ended up distancing myself from her for that reason. That being said, she's been going through a lot lately, so I've been trying to be there for her, which mostly involves just sitting there letting her vent. The other day she said, "I just can't believe how awful this year has been." I said, "Yeah, I know. It's been so stressful for all of us." She chuckled a little bit. "I can't imagine what you're stressed about. At least you get to be home." Well, my mother did die recently, so I've had a lot on my mind. She was quiet for a minute. I think she genuinely forgot that my mother had died. At this point, I thought she would say comforting, but nope. "Well, that's not as bad as what I'm dealing with. You just don't know." Usually I'm pretty good about keeping my mouth shut. I tried to stay quiet and let it go, but I was heated. I said to her, "I can't believe I just wasted my time sitting here listening to you bitch for 40 minutes just for you to turn around and say something so insensitive to me. I'll keep that in mind. When you're dead, I'll remind Ben that it's not a big deal and it could be worse. Does that sound good? And then I left. As I was telling my husband about it a few minutes later, she called to tell him what had happened. I'm calling to let you know that your wife wants me dead, was the only part I heard before I left the room and let him talk to her. When he was done, he was pretty pissed at her about the whole thing. Right now, I'm feeling like in a hole because I feel like I lost my temper when I should have been gentler with her, since she's definitely going through a lot. I also feel bad that I created a problem between him and his mother at such a critical time. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. My God, how insensitive can one woman be? You stood up for yourself, I'm proud of you. Everyone sucks here. She deserved it. She practically asked for it. But you've just given a self-absorbed person her favorite thing, victimhood. Sorry for your loss.